Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome along to episode 96 of the Sofamanager Scottish Football Podcast. And on this week's show, we are going to be reviewing the Scotland campaign. We're going to be talking about our favourite matches that we've seen in the actual flesh, for the most part, this time. We're going to be reviewing our favourite goals in detail and the ups and the downs of the whole thing. We are also going to be talking about Scotland's merchandise partner, JD Sports, and our brutally honest thoughts about how much we... What would you say, John?
Difficulty.
Let's go with difficulty. That's the polite thing. We're not going to be sponsored by them anytime soon, so it's probably fine. And we're also going to go through some news this week. There's been some interesting VAR comments from Nottingham Forest. VAR is always in the news at the moment. La Liga going to the United States, and some Scottish Cup semis action. As you can see, I'm famously brandishing my Aberdeen top. Absolute definition of a part-time fan, but we will get to that. Anyway, joining myself, part-time Aberdeen fan Paul, on this week's podcast, we have trying his best to be a Stevie Clark lookalike. It is John Brown. Hello.
Thanks very much. I wondered where you were going to go with my intro.
I had a thought. You've got the Scotland polo shirt. You know, you're looking very smart. Yeah, you've got the hairline. Forgive me. Hairline.
I've shaved though, so that's
exactly. You've probably got a happier complexion than Mr. Clark. I don't think that would work for podcasting.
I don't know about the happier part, but
I would certainly say that. So, don't forget, if you enjoy this podcast, like and subscribe on all the various platforms, being YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts. We are also on Instagram and Facebook as well, so give us a follow there. Anyway, shall we get straight on with things?
Absolutely.
Right, start with some news then, I think, this week. Do the news. We need a jingle for that. Yeah. No, we don't need a jingle for that.
That's too much editing.
That's going to be more effort for me. So, this week, it's come out that Nottingham Forest have rumbled. Was it PGMOL? Pigmol. Oh. Has anyone abbreviated that yet, or is it just PGMOL?
PGM, which stands for something else.
There's not referee in it. There's not an R. That's what gets me.
I don't know.
So, I presume you've seen Mark Clattenburg's comments, or we think Mark Clattenburg's comments about VAR being biased towards Luton, and some refereeing as well. What do you make of these comments, and is this with warrant or without warrant?
I think the content is absolutely golden.
Yes,
fantastic. But from a professional point of view, if you're looking at that, it's a little bit embarrassing that they've had to come out with that kind of statement and that type of wording as well. Really is a bit childish, to be honest. We don't know if Martin Clattenburg is advising on those on that terminology, on that actual statement itself. I think the rumour really was that it was coming from the owner, coming from that side of things. It's just they're right in what they say, but they've gone the wrong way about it, I think is probably the summary of it. The three decisions, particularly all Ashley Young, all absolute, just should have been awarded, absolutely no doubt about it. But they weren't. So of course you're going to start looking for conspiracy.
The thing is, I can understand they probably feel very much hard done by at the moment. They're just being pinged for financial fair play. They're now getting all these decisions against them, and they must be thinking, look at everyone else, getting away with all these things, getting away with the financial fair play. Now they're getting hammered with VAR, and I get the anger, I get the frustration, and to be a certain extent, I do get the fire and brimstone in the statement as well, because if the shoe was on the other foot, you
get it from a fan's perspective. That has been written by a guy who's just came off the terraces and is raging,
yes,
and is sitting in the pub 4 or 5 pints deep, and that's his rant. But as a club, as an official Twitter account, as an official statement, you shouldn't really be doing that. Shows a lack of class. And in terms of the conspiracy, the guy being a Luton fan, he could be a Luton fan, but you don't really know. You don't know who else is making decisions in that room as well. So there's about 4 or 5 VAR officials in the room. They're not all going to be Luton fans. They don't have that much fans compared to other clubs in England. They have to think. There's been a lot of inconsistencies in VAR, and there's a brilliant Machiavelli quote: "Is you always should look for incompetency rather than conspiracy." And I think that's what they should be doing in this circumstance. They're just not good enough at the job that they do.
I'm going to need a culture sound effect as well, so that when you come out with these things,
Stuff like that,
much
yeah.
as we had sort of our war history last week as well, it's just like culture with a big echo and a big button on it. Yeah, I think I was thinking about it this week, and it's the whole like not having bias thing is really, really difficult to do.
It's impossible. It is actually impossible to do that.
It's totally, and I like the thing that I give is big fan of Le Mans motorsport racing, for example, right? And the way that motor racing works right now is on a system called balance of performance. So they change the performance of the car to make sure they're all the same. Mm-hmm. Now, this weekend, they were in Italy, okay? The top 3 cars in qualifying were Ferrari, and Ferrari.
Right.
Now, you're telling me that they got the balance of performance just right, that the 3 Italian cars got to the top 3 on the Italian grid?
Yep. This isn't the 3 Ferraris who won Le Mans, though.
Well, the Ferrari that did win them, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
It's a whole other story. I hate balance of performance, but it's a whole other story. There is inherently, you see a big team go down, there's going to be more pressure on you because there's more eyes. And again, we kind of saw it in the Scottish Cup semis last week, some iffy decisions in the Aberdeen, Celtic game, for example, which eventually, again, do you know what the thing is? Eventually probably balanced out. Right?
Eventually. And it depends on the sample size you want to use. Over a full season, probably balances out. But as games go by, these things don't balance.
No.
They don't make sense at the time.
No. I think, though, it's taken away from... It doesn't feel like a sport anymore. I think we're very focused on the business of football. And previously, you were going to get decisions, you were not going to get decisions. It's not going to be a life-changing thing. But now it feels like it.
It feels like it now because it's such... the sport is now so in focus because of money, because of the media attention that it now gets. It probably didn't have that even 20, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then skyrocket, pouring a lot of money into it. And fair enough, like they've elevated the product. So the football you're actually watching is night and day compared to what it was 20, 30 years ago. Quality on the park. I would argue anyway.
Yeah, I think I'd agree it's increasing quality for better or for worse of entertainment and character.
For entertainment purposes, you're losing a lot. I agree totally in that part of thing. The age of a cult hero, for example, is gone because you're more interested in the overall performance of your team. But the kind of argument went that if you take a Man United team now, would it beat a Man United team of 40 years ago? No, probably on balance it might.
Well, if you played a two-legged affair in the conditions and the equipment that they played in, and then the conditions and the equipment that Manchester United play in now, it would be very interesting.
It would be very interesting. I mean,
we can't have it like ever, but And
you need to have the referees from that period, and you need to have like no VAR and then VAR.
Yeah.
So Roy Keane would last the full 90 minutes, or he would last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Depending on what leg you're playing. It's a difficult thing to compare. I'm digging myself out my own argument here. Yeah.
That's what we're here for at Sofamanager.
But it's a curious thing. I do think the overall product's probably better than what it was, or it certainly seems that way because you see it more.
Yes.
And it's certainly advertised in the way they sort of present these kind of games now. Mm-hmm. It's slick.
Yes.
It's really, really good. VAR probably tarnishes that a little bit. Just a little bit.
I think one interesting thing, I'm busy watching the ice hockey Stanley Cup playoffs just now. I set my alarm for midnight last night, by the way, to watch Toronto lose. So I'm in a great mood today. 2-1 down in a series against the Boston Bruins. But they basically throw most of the rules out the window for these big games and basically say, we're going to call this like it's a big game. We're going to understand there's going to be some heavy tackling challenges. We're going to let stuff go. And there was something, I think, in one of the FA Cup semis that they were like, the decision was literally, we can't give that in a semi, even though it was a foul. And I thought that was interesting. And I do think we need to give our officials a little bit of leeway and stop this moany culture. I love the managers that come out and say, look, that happened. You've still got to go out and win the game,
Well, this is it. I mean, if these issues for Forest in this single game wouldn't be an issue if they had won more games earlier in the season.
Yeah. And they didn't get a penalty deduction points as well.
But again, they've been financially doping themselves.
Oh yeah.
And yes, they will turn in and say, but what about Man City? Again, we're going down the route of what about it?
Yes.
You just hope Man City will have their day in court or whatever it will be, It'll
be too late.
Exactly, yeah, you're right. You probably will be too late. But Yeah, you got to let it work through the system and see what happens, and then you can have a go when you've all the facts in front of you at the end of the season when you're in the championship.
Yeah. And you'll still get pinged by financial fair play, as Leicester City are probably about to find out as well. To round off the point, I think I've spoken to you about this before. I like the attitude of the Corinthian club down south, which I think we've spoken about before, in which a gentleman simply would not foul you. So if a penalty is awarded, you miss the penalty because the gentleman did not surely mean to foul you, which I think is an interesting policy. Speaking of the business of football and things like that, you mentioned to me today, which I didn't actually know, La Liga are planning fixtures in the United States of America.
Yeah, yeehaw.
This is something they've kind of pushed the agenda of for a while, because they've played classical friendlies, I think, in the States before.
Oh, they must have done during these kind of, what was the tournament we went to with Darren for the Barcelona Celtic game? Was that the International Champions Cup?
Oh yes, possibly, yes. That was hosted around the world.
So it was around the world, but I'm sure there would have been sort of El Clasico games in amongst that.
There was definitely, I think in Orlando or something like that, a Barcelona Real Madrid game.
Yeah. So this isn't unusual. Well, it's unusual in the fact that it's a domestic league game, which is just beyond a joke. Like that calls for a riot. That just should not be happening.
I will counterpoint this in a moment.
Well, no, it's just bang out of order. Like, I think maybe the counter your argument is going to be the Americans do it.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's them. They are a different breed altogether compared to particularly European football operates. And it's the same for South American football as well. You would never imagine taking games outside your own country. I just don't understand it.
What about that Copa Libertadores final the other year that was in Madrid? I think that was for literal war.
Emotions were running high, because they did that in 2018. I was reading, because it kind of followed the same article, really. Like La Liga announced they're going to the US, and then they kind of cited the Super Clasico, the Boca Juniors and River Plate being played in Madrid.
Yes,
the
which was never the intention.
No, because that was supposed to be a two-legged affair. They played the first leg. I can't remember what way round it was. I think the first leg was at La Bombonera. When they went to play the second leg, that's when it really kind of kicked off. They targeted the team bus trying to get into the El Monumental.
Lovely.
So, but that's a completely different scenario to what could potentially be Valencia versus Seville in Salt Lake City. That's dreadful. I think nobody's shown up for that.
So two things. Obviously, the Americans have embraced this prospect of growth. We have 2 NFL games plus here, like what, 4?
Oh, at least 3 or 4.
3 or 4 regular season games here now. So now there's some in Germany as well.
Yep.
The NBA used to come over. I think they kind of spread that around now. And I'm a big basketball fan. I still remember watching the New York Knicks play at the O2 Arena. And it was great. And similar, like if I'm getting up at 12 p.m. to watch Toronto play, they were in was it Sweden or Finland? They were in Sweden earlier this year. Great, it's my time zone. I get into it, I watch it. And I do think it enhances interest, particularly for the enthusiasts that are already there. Now, obviously, it's all about growth in this day and age. You're a businessman, John. You know that,
Well, businessman is a stretch, but
he's a businessman, yes.
Administrator, maybe.
If you have any business needs, contact John Brown.
Don't contact
the name
me.
of the company that I can't remember, and it didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, everyone's looking at growth, and I look at the biggest growth sport in recent times has probably been
it's not football.
Formula One is what I would have said.
Okay.
Right. Amongst a certain audience, particularly that sort of young audience that everyone looks to capture for the money, essentially. Now, what's been a big part of the growth of Formula One, Jonathan?
Or probably the global audience.
No, I don't think the global audience has been a big part of it, John.
Sponsorship?
No, well, yes, the sponsorship has come because of the growth where?
Oh, it'll either be China, the US, of course, Liberty Media.
US.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you now.
We have a Las Vegas Grand Prix, we have a Miami Grand Prix, and we have a Circuit of America's American Grand Prix.
Texas.
Yes. Yeehaw. Anyway, that has been a huge area of growth. I think America's been one of the biggest growing football markets in recent years. Like the MLS has got to be 10 times the size it was a decade ago.
Yes, we are starting from a very small base. And what we say is the product of the MLS is still horrendous. Like, There is a reason why some Scottish players are going over there and looking world class.
But then that's your in, you know.
Yeah, but why aren't they developing their own domestic football, soccer, as opposed to just importing La Liga games? That's bizarre.
I think it's something that takes time, and we haven't really, because remember, it's kind of floated around. We had China was the emerging footballing market, that kind of died away. Saudi Arabia was then the emerging football market, that kind of died away. No one's, as you said, really made a good go of it.
No one's been able to kind of break the mould. I thought Saudi might do it, but for whatever reason, that's disintegrated, whether it's players not really wanting to go there. They're probably going over realising what the culture actually is.
Yeah.
And thinking this is not for them. Like, they'll take their payday, and then that's it. And I actually thought there'd be a mass exodus going to Saudi at the time, because the money was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So yeah, I think my point from a growth perspective, there's a gap. There's passionate American fans. And again, you see all these social media clips from Kate Abdo and co, who are on that, CBS Galazzo show or something?
Is that the woman, along with Michael Richards, who predicted every single Champions League game incorrectly? Yeah.
Yes. So they're on that, but there's obviously a big passionate community, you know, around that, off time, because you've got, I think the La Liga games would be earlier in the morning and things like that. And I think La Liga is interesting because, see, when it was on Sky Sports back in the day, it was huge. Like, you know, I used to watch loads of La Liga games on Sky Sports. And now they are one of the few that have tried to go for this sort of streaming platform route.
They seem to be scrambling for money, I think is the way to look at it. Apart from Real Madrid, I think most teams in Spain are kind of struggling for cash.
Yes.
Comparative to England, the Premier League. That's interesting. So they are obviously looking for different revenue streams, which sickens me to even say the word or the term revenue streams to talk about football. That's
what it is, though.
It doesn't sit right, and it will last a couple of years, and it'll fade away. This is almost like what the the NFL tried to do ages ago when they tried to have franchises based in Europe.
I think it's a bit. Well,
so when they had, Frankfurt had a team, Glasgow tried to have a Europe, team. No, it's just not at the level. There will be hardcore fans, supporters of clubs in the US who support Spanish teams, English teams. But there's no way you're going to win over your domestic audience, which is what you need. That's your linchpin to all of this.
You have them. Like, they are... Like, we always talk about...
You have them for a period of time, a short period of time, and then you get them rattled, and then they leave.
No, they don't. Football fans are loyal. You've attended Falkirk through thick and thin.
Yeah, but they're not going away to play in Orlando, which would be nice in fairness for a game. I swear,
see if they did that, they'd still sell that. Is the base like 2,500 season ticket? It's basically, no matter what happened to them, they would always sell 2,500 season tickets.
Yeah, I mean, that is the base, but you think, well, how can you improve on that? And it is not playing games abroad. It's not. You can't build like... No, it just doesn't work.
It doesn't build... Well, I don't know.
You just lose so much.
I do think that the NFL in this country is exponentially bigger than it was before they started playing games here. It's a much bigger deal now than it ever used to be. It used to still be an obscurity. I
still think it's an obscurity.
I don't know. I remember when I was at uni, a lot of people have playoff parties. A lot more people than watch the Scottish Cup final or the FA Cup final, which are clashing, I heard, which is interesting. Which, you're quite right, SFA. The audiences are very different. We'll see if it works. La Liga, their big problem is they only really have two big teams. So there's interesting stories like Girona doing well this year.
Yep.
And, you know, I've always been a big Atletico Bilbao fan, for example. Athletic Bilbao.
Winning Copa del Rey. Yep.
Exactly. So there is interesting things there. But, you know, do you reckon more people have been watching the Bundesliga this year because of the Leverkusen story, you know?
Potentially. But this is the same thing. So you're watching it, but you're watching it getting played over there. You as a fan, if you're watching El Clasico, you'll probably watch it, you know, wherever it really kind of is.
Yeah.
But you still lose something, the fact that that's not going to be played in Madrid or that's not going to be played in Barcelona.
They would never do that.
They will, because that's the selling. That's the game that sells. They're not going to put random games. They're not going to have Mallorca versus Barcelona being played somewhere in the US. That's not what the deal's all about, surely.
We'll wait and see. Whether it would be successful, I can see the thinking behind it. They would be one of the first footballing leagues I can think of to try it.
Like I say, during a kind of regular season, Spain have done it quite a lot for their cup games.
Yeah.
The Super Copa gets played in like Morocco. I think they played it in Saudi Arabia. And stuff like that
yes. I think Liga
Italy
did
do that
something
as
like
well.
that for a wee while.
Italy does it.
It's because of PSG and the Qatar thing.
Again, it's just your domestic season, the league season is sacred and it's different and it should be left alone and it should be played in your home country. And it's the same with the NFL. If I was any NFL supporter and I found out, you only get what 7 or 8 home games,
barely any games,
and you find out at least one of your home games is getting played in London.
you're
raging.
happy.
Like, pointless.
But then if you're over there, yeah. We'll see what happens.
You're just pandering to people. Go and support your local team. That's the crux of this thing. If you are living in Los Angeles, go down and watch the Galaxy or LAFC. If you're in Chicago, watch the Fire. Like, because they don't get huge crowds.
No.
Comparative to where they are in their population. They're just a bunch of glory hunters.
Yes.
That's the purpose.
Yes.
It should be stopped.
That's where the money is. Right.
Raging.
On that note, probably rounds us off in the news, isn't it?
I've had enough news.
Yeah, fair enough. Aberdeen did nearly beat Celtic and then they didn't beat Celtic. So almost. That's why I'm wearing my Aberdeen kit this weekend.
In defiance.
Exactly. Anyway, we are going to be talking about the Scotland campaign. Obviously a very successful campaign on their way to Euro 2024. Finishing second in the group. What points total did they have, John?
I can't remember.
I have no idea. You could probably count it in your head. But starting all the way back, January, February, March, April...
March.
Was it March last year?
March 25th, I think.
March 25th against Cyprus. So how did we end up there, John, in the first place? We were now semi-season ticket holders, can you call it that, for an international setup?
So we decided to get memberships for this campaign, thinking, we're doing okay. This is maybe a good time to get in. Mm-hmm. Price actually was okay. There
was a deal to get more people through the door to really, I think, push on that campaign, which it did. We actually
we bought in.
Well, I think we single-handedly pushed it over the line, but nonetheless. Yeah.
So it was £50 to become new members.
Yep.
And then it was £125 for the 5 games. So £25 a game. That's good value for international football, given that that included the England game and the Spain game in that package. It's decent.
I do remember because you were the one to kind of push this on. And at the time, it'd been a bit of a dull, like January, February, or whatever. And I was in or like October, whenever we bought the tickets. But I was in a mode which I call yes to all, essentially. So any social request of any kind that came through, unless there was literally something that would get in the way, I was going to do it.
Yep.
And within this 2 weeks, I had signed up to stuff that then continued for 6, 7, 8 months after the fact, which was actually quite good. I think this was one of our best investments of the year. So we rock up to that first game against Cyprus. Went very, very well. I think one of the things you wanted to talk about was what was our most memorable goals of the campaign.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, so there's a few to pick from. I mean, if we're going to jump ahead to the second or third game, particularly the Spain game, that second goal from Scott McTominay is just phenomenally good. What's dying a battery? Whoa!
You keep chatting.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're having an IT issue here.
There's jeopardy.
Oh no! Never say we're not slick. If I can radio commentary here, so now, oh Paul, what are you doing down there? What have you done? There you go. Nope.
Is it doing it?
Nope.
Oh.
Well, that sounded bad.
Is it doing it now?
No. Oh. Yes, there is.
Oh, good grief.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we are safe. Fear not.
Oh,
fear not, people.
That's going to make the highlight reel for the wrong reasons. Hold on, I'm going to need to enable a preview because I might have moved the camera.
You're going to have to. Oh, this is.
So you were. Yeah, we're grand, aren't we?
You're looking grand.
Okay, that's fine. So you were saying Scott McTominay?
Scott McTominay, that's my goal. That's
Which one? They were all Scott McTominay goals.
Scott McTominay, was it at least 7 or 8 during the kind of campaign?
Yeah.
The second one against Spain is an absolute kind of highlight for me. It's for the noise as much as anything else.
That was one of the first experiences in a long time that it was a proper limbs celebration, essentially.
Aye.
Of you just got up and you started hugging each other, you partially fell over. unbelievable scenes, essentially.
It was magic. I mean, I watched back a lot of the highlights in preparation for this, and you watch the game against Cyprus, the highlights in that, and the atmosphere is pretty grim. And I remember it being quite flat as well.
It was they weren't playing that great.
They hadn't came into that campaign on a really good run of form. I mean, they got defeated in Turkey. They beat Ireland, and then I'm sure they drew with Ukraine 0-0 as well, which was like the kind of previous home game too. That was a Nations League game. There was a bit of kind of like, we don't know what to expect from this kind of campaign. So like it was a standard 3-0 win. It was 2 late goals to kind of make the result look a little bit better.
Yeah.
And you can listen, it's like, oh yeah, great goals, happy days. And then you watch the Spain game, and the first goal goes in, and it's like there's a marked difference in the noise of the celebration.
Yeah.
But then the second goal, I honestly go back and listen to it. There's just that kind of high pitched jazz from everyone for the second goal. It's incredible. Like, what a feeling! Like
I remember when the first goal went in, you're like, it was a surprise.
It was a huge surprise. You're like, and then you realise there's only like 5 minutes on the clock, and you're like, 85 minutes. We're basically going to defend.
So that's the thing. You're basically waiting for the equaliser that entire time, and there were some close moments. Some great crossing. When I watched the highlights earlier, it was funny. I saw it was like, was it Porro that was getting booed?
Pedro got booed. I can't really remember why. I mean, he was diving about like a.
He was diving. He was trying to get full booked. Essentially, I remember on that.
Was Andy Robertson down the far side?
I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
And then when the second goal comes in, you're like, we're doing this. This is a thing.
That was incredible. And you've got to remember as well, sort of Ryan Christie had that chance at the end of the first half.
I saw that.
It was like, we could have been 2-0 up going into the break. And then that's when you kind of think maybe we've just about had our chance. And then second goal goes in, just well, that's it. We are going to the Euros. You knew straight away, I should have booked my flights and hotel by that point. Like,
yeah, I think McTominay has been such a star of this campaign. And at that time, he was not soup du jour at Manchester United. He was really having to prove himself, and he became the top scorer in the 2024 qualifying group stages at that point. And he was barely getting in the Man United team, so it really turned his season around.
I mean, international football for sure propelled him back into the kind of spotlight, and the kind of thinking for Ten Hag, which is great. I mean, that's what we've kind of needed. That kind of, he's like such a kind of tall, empowering kind of player, up front, pushing forward. Like, you very seldom see that. It's usually kind of wee smouts like Ryan Fraser, who we've kind of relied on in the past for
boosting around,
for a kind of bit of width going down that side. Between him and McGinn, kind of dovetailing each other in a lot of these games. I mean, I watched back the Norway winner.
But the away game,
my second favourite goal, which is phenomenal.
That's probably the best finish of the entire campaign.
Yeah, or the calmness on that. But when you watch McTominay down the right hand side, his cross ball, like lobbed across for McGinn, and then McGinn's composure to even just knock it to Dykes, and then Dykes back to McLean, and then it's in, and you could have Michael Stewart could absolutely do a lally. It's fantastic.
Both of them,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think like that was a moment of luck, that Norway game, really.
I don't know, because again, watch the penalty decision for Haaland. Never a penalty in a million years.
I think it's soft.
They got their comeuppance in that end.
Yes.
Get rid of VAR.
But they were pretty dominant the rest of that game. And then when they came back to Hampden, we didn't look all that great against them. The problem was it was kind of done by that point, but...
It was done by that point, and again, kind of comparing the lineups, which I'm sure we'll maybe kind of go into in a later podcast when we start to build our sort of squad for the Euros, is particularly the Spain game, the Spain home game. Looked at that starting 11 and went, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, that was the starting 11.
You couldn't change a thing.
It was absolutely spot on. And then you compare it to the Norway game in the last game of the season.
Yeah,
it wasn't quite there. Even against Georgia in the second last game, you've got Xander Clark in goal. Patterson's playing right wing back when you would rather have Hickey. You've got Greg Taylor in the squad. Probably wouldn't have him at the moment. So there was weaknesses beginning to appear coming into the campaign. And don't want to kind of tempt fate, but we might be going into this tournament with that kind of squad depleted as well.
We'll talk about that in the preview
for the moment. Like
you mentioned the Georgia game. I think in terms of memorable moments, that's got to be the most memorable. But we barely saw, some of us didn't see that much football played. Darren, in fact, saw none, unfortunately. He couldn't be there that night. I remember because we got on the train, didn't we?
We got the train down to Mount Florida.
We used to living through there.
I still lived in Glasgow, so there was no problems for me whatsoever.
No, but I remember we got on with your friend Gary, and I was not prepared for rain in any way, shape, or form.
Is Gary not your friend?
Oh, you've rumbled me there. All right, Gary, if you listen to 30 minutes and 24 seconds into the podcast and found this information, do send us a DM on social media somewhere, and we'll have this out. That'll now be linked somewhere, won't it? But yeah, I wasn't prepared for rain at all, and it came thrash. You have never.
Oh, of course, I forgot about that because I abandoned you at the train station and just went, I'm just going, I'll see you later.
You just boosted. So I remember sprinting through this crowd. I've got like my Air Max trainers, which are just fabric, so it's just coming through. There's wee Lyle Scott jumper that's got no waterproof ability whatsoever. But there's a great picture of looking very much wind-soaked and interesting.
Right.
Getting to the stand. And I do have a clip, which I'll probably put up on Instagram, of the first goal, which happened very, very quickly.
Oh, right.
In that game. Now, I actually feel kind of bad about that because I hate it when you're watching stuff and in the background of people celebrating there's just someone with their phone out. Yeah. And my intention when I take videos and pictures and stuff is never to take a video or a picture of a goal. I want to experience those things. Hence why when they scored, the video immediately cuts off. And I'm filled with,
that's fine,
of course, joy, but utter shame at the same time. So, you know. But the pictures that night were so good because the amount of spray that came off of everything.
Oh, it's amazing.
And then when they were getting at the referee and they were kicking the footballs at him and stuff, classic, absolute classic.
That was brilliant. I mean, I remember everybody kind of slowly drifting away from about 50 minutes into the game. When you actually look at the kind of timestamps in it, it's like what is going on? I couldn't remember what happened when because it was so late at night. This is where it should be. And in fact, I left. It was 92 minutes. I just got out my seat, walked up to the back of the stand, and then they got awarded their penalty.
Yes, right at the end.
And I'm kind of standing there going, do I watch for this potentially going in, or do I want the last train home?
Yes.
Right, I want the last train home. And then it was actually kind of walking just past the West Stand up to Mount Florida. You could hear the roar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we've either scored again, or that's it over, or they've missed the penalty.
Yeah, either or.
Missed the penalty.
I think I watched the penalty as I was coming through my door because I abandoned ship.
It was so early.
I think it was either 50-55, maybe.
I can't remember. I didn't leave at half time. Oh, it was 5 minutes into the
I think it was like 5 minutes into this. I think it was 5 minutes into the second half.
And then Gary left.
Great pal.
Before you or after you?
After me, because he got stuck for a while trying to get trains from Queen Street and stuff like that. Because again, travel to Hampden sucks from anywhere in central Scotland that's not south of Glasgow.
I mean, it's a memorable moment for all the wrong reasons. It was actually coming out of that Cyprus game, at the very first game.
Oh, in the queue for the train.
We must have queued longer than the game actually went on.
Oh, it was quite a while.
Home.
Quite a while.
Oh, horrendous.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I don't know. There's loads of places that aren't easy to get to. So yeah, and then obviously the great thing about that game is the Why Is It Always Rain on Me will be the everlasting memory of everyone just singing. Who sings that again? I'm going to kick myself.
Travis.
There you go, Scottish band. So if there was any more Scottishness running through your veins, that was the night to have it, essentially.
Talking about June, Georgians crying, just adding to the water on the park. It was class. Brilliant game. I
think we'll talk about the music experiences in a bit. To round the whole thing off, as someone who's only really attended Falkirk, Aberdeen and Stennismuir games for any extensive period of time, which is a really random combination.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I hope for the viewers on the YouTube, they'll appreciate my football shirt collection tonight. Right in, is it better or worse than the hockey jerseys? I know what my personal opinion is. But anyway, to see that quality, your eyes are opened all of a sudden. To see the sort of passing and the zipping around and, it's quite refreshing to see good football in front of you. Now, it's not always been good football. The Northern Ireland game was terrible and a disaster. But the majority of the rest of the time, it's a real spectacle. And they do a brilliant job, I think, at Hampden of making it a real event.
It makes it, certainly for sure. I mean, you are quite far away from the park and a lot of the, particularly where we were.
See, that McTominay goal that you speak about, you're never actually quite sure what actually happened and from what perspective, because you are that far away from the action. Again, I don't mind that because you can fit more people in, but as someone who's visually challenged with their eyesight, I didn't have my new prescription, I think, for the first few games. And then for the later few games, it was all fine. But pre to that point, it was a little bit challenging, shall we say.
I mean, we got relatively lucky. I think most of the goals are actually scored up where we were kind of sitting as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Georgia goal was.
And I'll say sitting as well because I'm never ever going back into that section again.
The standing versus sitting argument.
Yeah, I mean...
John, what height are you, by the way?
I'm 6 foot if I actually, like, properly hold up my posture.
Oh, right. Oh, I thought you were properly like so.
No.
Okay, I'm 5'7.5".
I don't lie on my... it's not like a Tinder resume where I'm like, I'm 6'4" and hung like a horse.
Okay. Well, that can be clipped for it if you would like that. You know, any football fans out there, write in to the Sofamanager social media. All applicants, please see references. Yeah, the thing that always got me is I think you this really wound you up last time. There's a lot of young kids at these games having their sort of first time experiences, and
that part didn't wind me up.
I know, but what gets me is I remember being younger and you'd be caught behind so many big folk and you wouldn't be able to see a thing. And I always feel really self-conscious and I'm trying to like kind of duck out the way so that they can see, or I'm trying to sit down in a moment when everyone's standing. Ironically, the last Scotland game, the person behind us didn't remotely care. I don't think was remotely interested in the football match at all.
I mean, this is what actually kind of annoys me about particularly organising big events in big stadiums like that.
Yeah,
is they should have family sections and
standing sections.
Families and actually designated standing sections so we would know, right, go to the west stand.
Yeah.
Or even like north stand.
Yeah.
Because that's where the majority of people sort of actually stand for these games. And we never knew that going into it. So that was a mistake on our part.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, you know, it should be kind of alluded to somewhere on the lines, or it's marked as a family section, which is much more understandable.
Yes.
I mean, I'd hate to be, you know, a family with a couple of young kids going to that England game and having to explain every profanity under the sun to your kid, you know.
Oh, that was co-host Darren's fault.
Him and Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, if you see you next Tuesdays to Jude Bellingham, it's like, sorry children, sorry, you know. I'm sure Jude's a very nice person, you know. We don't know. My friend's a big Barcelona fan. He's probably just taking it out on that.
I mean, it just frustrates me. I mean, we go there because we want to experience it in a certain manner, and I'm sure they want to experience it in a certain manner as well, and that they actually probably want to see the game.
Yeah,
I want to see the game, and I want to stand and sing and get involved in the atmosphere,
scream and shout and let it all out.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I would say
you go there to kind of vent a wee bit, nothing over the top, but
yeah,
you do want to kind of just get involved.
Yeah,
in the atmosphere. We felt we kind of lost that a little bit. Just purely from where we are.
Yeah.
But we've learned our lesson.
Yes.
We're now where we need to be.
Yeah, well, we've signed up again. This year's a little bit less packed with fixtures, and particularly competitive fixtures. But nonetheless, speaking of slightly less positive experiences, my tale of half and half scarves. Did I tell this last week or did I?
I think you came to it. Your Scotland or England one.
Do you want to tell part of the story? And I'll try and look them out actually for the YouTube. I'm going to get off my seat again. I do apologise.
I mean, that England experience was stressful, and that was before the game had even started.
Oh dear.
I mean, the fact that me and Darren, I think, got in without any bother at all. We got there really, really early actually. And before you knew it, I'm getting a really weird phone call off a number I couldn't recognise.
That's my number.
And I'm thinking, do I pick this up? Do I not pick up? And I was like, you know what? It'll be really funny to pick this up. And they'll be able to hear me in a stadium if it's some kind of cold caller. Paul standing at the gate going, can I get my ticket? Like, I was like, scramble down. Thankfully, I did manage to get some signal on the phone to get that kind of downloaded.
Okay.
And then, what have you done? This is worse than the laptop.
This is a disaster. If I was more prepared, this would have been sorted.
We've got them there.
Right, okay. Are these the right ones?
You got another one.
Oh no, I was wanting the Spain one. Right, this will serve the point anyway. So, you want to remember these things by, yes?
Yes, I mean that. Last thing I want to kind of remember by is by going down to the gate, try to sweet talk the guy into letting you in.
Right, e-tickets are so stupid, and what had to the whole system was so stupid because basically we were all in a friend group which you had to add us to, which you have to do with like all tickets these days, which is super annoying because we even had to when we went to Murrayfield to watch Aberdeen play Hearts, in which there was a bunch of tickets still available. We all had to do this linking and set up accounts for one game that you'll never ever use again. So thank you very much for that. But so linked up as pals, which is all well and good. But what that meant was they sent all the tickets to John all the time. So you were then responsible for sending these on to us, which you did, in fairness. So you held up your end of the bargain.
Yeah, you kept friends and...
Well, see, that's the thing as well. If you have a big falling out throughout the year, you could have just told me to get stuffed and given my ticket to someone else.
Yeah, highest bidder.
There was no recourse. On the particular day of the England game, what had happened was John sent us the tickets the day before, like the morning before.
Something like that.
So it was there. I'm like, grand, it's on the Facebook. I was coming from work, so I'll just park up my car, I'll download the ticket in the car park, and I'll go to the stadium. Now, Facebook's totally useless. Because, why would we want to save a PDF in our system for any more than 2 days? No, not happening. So they decided that that was being deleted and that was gone. So I then needed to get in touch with John to try and resend this ticket again. And John's in amongst 50, 60,000 people. And of course, the phone signal's just not doing anything. Yeah. So I'm calling him. I'm trying everything on my walk down there. So I'm still walking down there, trying everything to like get in contact and try and get this sorted. I'm trying to re-log into the app, see if there's like a back way to get the ticket. Couldn't get the ticket. Now, I eventually get hold of John. He meets me at the gate, passes me his phone to scan the ticket.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah. Maybe, so he passes his phone through the fence. Great, we're sorted. Get to the front of the queue. Boop. Not happening.
Yeah, it wouldn't scan.
No idea why it wouldn't scan. Don't know if it was a scan ticket previously or just something had happened. Go to the stewards. What's going on with this? Oh, you'll need to go all the way around to this like...
Oh, it's like the main stand. There's like an actual like ticket office.
Yes.
Thing. Yep.
And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to get there before kickoff. That's just not going to happen. So I get back to you, say it's not working, and then with your sweet charm. John is incredibly polite. We went to... shall I tell the train story at Carlisle when you were
no, we're not going to that
would you like have it with your bag, madam? Oh, madam, Jonathan. This is madam. Very nice. Very helpful gentleman, this businessman John. That'll be your new name from now on. We managed to sweet talk the boy manning one of the exit gates, essentially, just to let me in, which is really bad. Yeah. That should never have happened. But he did also let a few people in before me as well.
Yeah. And what you missed as well, was when you had my phone trying to get in through the main turnstiles, guys were boosting over the fence.
Yeah.
And they'd kicked open the gate, so guys were just running in for
it was a bit of a rally. I did notice that in the Aberdeen Celtic game. There's a lot of people just standing in stairwells and stuff like that, and you're like, oof, a bit sketchy there. But got in. And in my rush of things, right, I'll show you. So the Norway scarf, for the bigger games, I wanted some half and half scarf. So I don't have a Cyprus one, but there's the...
Upside down Scotland one.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. Thank you, John. Right,
that's right.
There, for YouTube viewers, is the Scotland versus Norway scarf.
Yeah, very nice.
Right, great. You've got the date of the match and everything. So it's a proper memory. It's quite good quality as well. Well, for a half and half scarf, they're like a £5 or whatever. That's fine. That's what I wanted. I have a Spain one as well because that was a great night. That was fantastic. For the England game, big special occasion as well.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
John, as a legend, actually bought the commemorative programmes.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. I've still got that, and I'm thinking I'm gonna, because I'm in a rush and I'm stressed out of my mind. Like, you have no idea. I'm barely making kickoff at this point because there's been so much traffic as well. I think I'm gonna get a half and half scarf. So, to the audio listeners, that's the Scotland England scarf. Now you'll notice at this end in particular, we have the Scotland Rugby logo.
Yeah, not a good look.
And then we have a super generic St George's cross at the other end.
I find that to be incredibly distasteful.
It's a trash rugby scarf. Utterly trash rugby scarf.
You kept that for St George's Day.
Oh, but you've had a long day. You've been stressed out your mind getting in. Then Scotland got beat. They didn't really play especially well that night either. They didn't really give anything for England to worry about. It was a bit of a
that was
bit of a lower point.
Yeah, that was a telling in class. They were streets ahead of us that game.
You did get to see some real quality that night. In terms of Bellingham, I've always actually really rated Harry Kane. I know people kind of go up and down. And then what did we say? Because there was two players I think we saw playing for. Because was Liam, who was the goalie? Was Liam Kelly in goals that night?
Oh no, it was Alexander Clark or Angus Gunn. I think we put a relatively strong team. It wasn't Liam Kelly,
but they had, was it Abrice Eze was playing?
Yep,
and we'd seen him for QPR.
Oh, why God, donkeys ago.
I know, but there was another player for Scotland who also was in that QPR team at the time. Who I thought was the goalie. And we were like, who would have ever thought that all those years ago they would have ended up there? Which was a cool thing. I don't know if they acknowledged that with each other, but they might have done. They might have done. Also, as part of our sort of memoirs journey, you were a big collector of pins.
Love pin badges now. This is my the anorak thing.
It's a cool thing to have, and they're great, a lot of them as well.
I never appreciated that. I used to kind of wonder about people who collected pin badges, thinking that's a bit strange.
Yeah.
But then I started doing it. My very first pin badge would have been Clydebank. So before that, I actually used to do scarves.
Yeah.
And then I was like, they're like cumbersome. You can't really display them as well. So
yes,
I'll start pin badges. My God, like I've went down a rabbit hole. Like it's incredible. But they're brilliant, particularly for the international games. Like eventually, once I've got enough, I'll probably will buy one of the hats.
Okay, yeah, to put them on
and start kind of pinning them in. If I do become a
flat cap,
I get become a tartan army foot soldier.
Your sash.
But they're great. I mean, they're cheap, and it's a good kind of like memory kind of thing as well. I've got them kind of on a lapel, and you can look back at them and go, yeah, that game, and you go, I've been to like 6 really important Scotland games recently. That's brilliant. Like, and I'm hoping to get a few for the Euros as well. So it's adding to the collection.
Exactly. And to see John's collection, he'll be posting that on Instagram this week.
Probably.
Yes. There we go. We can rehash that. That's fine. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the campaign before we move on to our last topic?
Well, I mean, looking back on the results of the campaign, it's really strange. It almost kind of crescendos in the Cyprus away game.
Yes.
So I remember being in the pub. I went to the Haymarket Bar to watch it in Edinburgh, and it was almost like not really worthwhile watching it because you were so good and it's so far ahead of them. You kind of forgot it was on. You were just ended up just having a chat and it was on in the background. And it was almost like kind of complacency because from there it's like lost to England, lost to Spain, drew away in Georgia.
Well, they did win. They've not won in 7.
Yeah,
I think.
That's when it all started to kind of fall away a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know injuries from that point as well start to kind of creep into the squad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny how the campaign went from like a really high, like 5-6 wins on the bounce.
Yeah.
And then it started to kind of creep away a little bit.
Yes.
I wouldn't say we were lucky in the end. We did all the hard work at the start.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for us.
I do think they were unlucky Spain away as well. There was
some
iffy decisions there that I was like, come on.
The Scott McTominay goal.
Still no idea.
The kind of internal free kick. I mean,
still no idea when we were on that.
Again, having watched it months after the event, he is offside.
Right.
So if that's what they've given the foul for, which I still think it probably is.
Right.
He is offside because he's interfering with the goalkeeper.
But
it's so frustrating.
Let it go.
It's like Coventry in the FA Cup. It's one of these moments where you want the moment to happen, but
bias, John.
Is it bias?
Let it get the better of you. We like stories. Sponsors like stories. The Americans like stories.
It's complacency, not conspiracy. Like,
we love it.
That's the case. But I think overall we can say it's probably one of the best campaigns in recent memory for us.
It is a shame that they couldn't have pushed for top spot because that was close. In the end, it wasn't so close, but I think they'd realised that we're qualifying.
Yes.
And took the foot off the gas.
And I think the other thing we can probably take away from the campaign as well is when we have our full starting 11, we're incredibly good. Like we can beat Spain with that squad.
Yeah.
When we don't have even just 1 or 2 players, things begin to get a wee bit kind of creaky, and this is when you start to get like
my technical setup.
The draw away in Georgia, the home draw against Norway, which again watching it back was, I remember it being a weird game. It was a good atmosphere to begin with.
Yeah.
And then they scored after like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, oh man. But then there's looking at backwards and forwards. McGinn gets his penalty and stuff like that. You kind of think, right, I am none the wiser how we were really going to get on at the Euros.
That was a really weird moment because they did their big sort of walk.
Did the walk in the park at the end.
Yeah, what would you call that? Lap of
Honour.
Lap of Honour. And it just felt a wee bit flat. Like it wasn't,
It felt a little bit like the Cyprus game. Like the job was done, so there was nothing.
But even then, we're kind of clapping away, going, but you didn't smash this team,
You've kind of crawled over the line a little bit. But like I said, we did all the hard work to begin with.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can grumble. It's very difficult to poke holes in this campaign as a whole. But like I say, I'm none the wiser as to how we're really going to get on at a tournament. There's issues with that squad.
Yeah.
Still, I think we've been a larger squad, if that does indeed get kind of approved, up to 26 players. That might help us a little bit.
Yep.
You won't be we'll be able to take 2 or 3 options at fullback, for example, rather than maybe just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Which is a huge help for us, given the way we play. So I think we can look back at it and go, it was great we were there. I think we'll look back on that forever.
All right.
We definitely will.
I wish it was played in Miami, personally, but,
We can do that when we get to the World Cup. Right?
There you go. Okay. We'll hold you to that, Jonathan. Last but not least then, obviously our passion for Scotland at different points has led to the need for merchandise. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the only merchandising partner of Scotland are JD Sports. Mm-hmm. Okay, very popular amongst the youths for the number of trainers that they offer. I noticed on Boxing Day, queued out the door for the trainers.
Really?
Yeah, big deal. Mm-hmm. And I got a bit carried away with the previous Scotland Euros campaign and event. So I had ordered myself a Scotland away top, right? And this will lead in quite nicely to your story, I think. And now, being a devout Aberdeen fan as I am, as you can see from the shirt I'm wearing, I wanted a proper Aberdeen lad's name on the back. Someone who was entirely instrumental to the qualifying campaign, and that was Andrew Considine. So I thought this was a novel way of doing things. So I ordered my shirt from JD Sports. Considine requested on the back with the correct number, and the Euros patches. Now, this was interesting because throughout the whole Euros, I don't think they actually wore the away kit. I think they were home kit
all 3
every time.
Yep.
So this was a
funny one. Yep.
Sort of oh no, would they not? Aye. So what had happened is I ordered this shirt. Then they said that they couldn't put the patches on it. I was like, that's fine. And I ordered a set of my own patches to put on it.
Okay.
Which you can do, just some iron on. I've done it in the past with other things. Right. So I think I might have thrown them out now, but there was some Euros patches from then. Was that 2020, 2021? Because it was delayed, wasn't it?
2021. Yep.
Okay, aye. So time goes by, no sign of shirt. More time goes by. You sent him in my shirt? Yeah, it's coming. And allegedly it's in a van going somewhere. More time passes. You sure you're still sending me a shirt? Wait another 2 weeks. If it's not, we'll deal with something then. 2 weeks go by. Yeah, shirt's not happening. But apparently it was dispatched. That's what gets me.
Yeah, that's strange. That's somebody's nicked it.
I think it was lies. I don't think they ever printed this shirt based on the story that you'll tell as well. And the happy ending to this whole thing was that JD were then hacked soon after, and I had my financial details stolen. With a number of phones taken out in my name, which then caused half a year of absolute nightmares trying to get it sorted. So, much like the England game and my half and half scarf, it was not bittersweet, but bitter, indeed.
Not ideal.
Now,
far from ideal.
What experiences have you had with the same sporting company, John?
Well, recently it's actually trying to get printing on the back of the shirt.
A common issue by the sounds of things.
Very kindly got given the new Scotland top for my birthday from my work colleagues. Business. Now they've been to about 4 different GD stores across central Scotland. All 4 of them are turned around and says, yeah, we don't do printing, but go and speak to Joe Blogs down the road in a kind of dodgy memorabilia store. He'll do it for you.
Yeah.
And even those guys don't have the actual printing or the
numbering,
letters,
the numbering and lettering, yeah,
actually being delivered. So this is all a little bit weird. Like, one, why haven't JD Sports stores got printing presses? I mean, it's not difficult.
No.
And the other thing that really grinds my gears is you can't go on their website and find a store which does it. So there's no, you can go and go, oh, there's 30 stores in your kind of radius. It doesn't tell you if they actually like do the personalisation.
Yeah.
Like, come on, this is
part of me wonders,
basic service. Like,
because I remember back in the day, you used to be able to buy when we were kids. So I remember there's a blue and red Manchester United shirt, right? Nike had a really cool template that basically had these sort of side bits that then went down.
Right, okay.
Which you might remember. Celtic and stuff had Nike at the time as well, had a similar template, which wasn't...
there was an England top kind of like that. Was it 2003-04 kind of era?
Well, England were all Umbro way.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a Nike template as well.
No, it was all Umbro at the time. So they had this cool thing like down there. I loved that blue and red shirt. Now, the only place you could get the Premier League printing done was JJB Sports.
Right.
Lol.
Way back when?
Yeah, I know. Youths. It doesn't even have an equivalent anymore because JD, what was JD before? I'm sure it had another name.
JD was always JD, I'm sure.
No.
Was it not?
There was something else.
Oh.
Anyway.
I know where it used to be in the Howgate. Like,
I know. It had a different name before it was JD.
It's the place you would go to get your Fred Perry jumpers.
Oh, remember Carbrini? Whatever happened to Carbrini? Do they still sell Carbrini?
Oh, I don't know.
Mine Dundee United were Carbrini.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Anyway, couldn't get a Dundee United shirt in the Howgate, mind you. So, what was my point? My mother managed to wrangle that she'd bought the shirts from there when she actually hadn't, to get them to do the printing, because obviously they don't want to print something that's come from another shop.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if that's the hold up with your issues, but then you can't buy a Scotland top from anywhere else.
This is it. It's exclusive to them, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe it's just me. I mean, I'm old fashioned, pause in the old bit. That, you know, you can't really just go to like a store like JGB or a kind of competitor and just get it done.
No.
Like, because there's just, those shops doesn't exist anymore. It's just annoying. And I don't want to have to travel to like the fort in the far side of Edinburgh to get this printed.
For it possibly to happen.
I mean, I'm going to have to do it at some stage, but
I'll come with you because I need a new table.
yeah, I was going to say, I think you say you need a new Porsche or something like that.
This podcast is paying better in ad revenue than you might expect, John, and you're seeing none of it.
It's annoying. But that's where we're at. And I have to say, I do like the new, like, having seen the Scotland home kit, you know, in person.
In the flesh, yes.
It is infinitely better.
It's a grower.
I mean, it looks better on Scott McTominay than it does on me, but not by much, but it is a little bit better.
At least he has his name in the back.
The away top, I still think looks like a Parma Violet.
It's a weird, if it had been... Again, one of my favourite Scotland tops, which is sadly dead and buried now, was the Diadora bright blue saltire, light sort of pale blue saltire with a gold trim.
Yeah, but as England fans will tell you, you should not be mucking about with your nation's flag.
That was a Starmer thing that blew out of control. And to be fair, Nike were like, no, we're not changing it. Like, we don't care. And I think people had pointed out this had happened before and no one had made an issue about it then. And I think in our preview we will talk through some of the Euros kits and some of the lack of creativity that some of the brands have shown.
Just a little bit.
Yes, so we will get to that. So again, if anyone out there works for GD Sports, this is a call.
Please let me know if you have a printing press.
Exactly. And we'll get John fixed up. Anyway, I think that about rounds us off for this week.
I think so.
Great. Well, again, I've got to be better on my social media plugs and things like that. If you have enjoyed this
and actual plugs, by the way.
Yeah. With you. Bring your own equipment next time, John. Jeez, if you've got a problem with it. Thank you very much for watching. If you have got this far, friends alike, of course.
Friends alike, yeah.
Yes. And if you have enjoyed the episode, give it a like, a subscribe and a follow wherever you are listening. It helps us out a lot. Also, follow us on social media for more bits and bobs and to see John's pin collection. That'll be on Facebook and Instagram at Sofamanager, or looking up Sofamanager will take you to the right place. Sadly, I think the website is slightly dead at the moment.
Yeah, I'm
so, okay. RIPSofamanager.com. But nonetheless, we hope you have a good evening, a good afternoon, and a good morning. Bye-bye.